Happy New Year, Bob Squad, from the hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. Sometimes you go over the top rope and you bang your head on the ring apron. Why do you do that? That's when you feel like a big dope. They're the worst bumps you can be taking. Oh, it's the hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. Now double claps. Here we go, Bob Squad. It's the first hardest part of the ring of 2022. We need a new theme song with some new lyrics. I'm gonna work on that. For the hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. Ba-da-ba-da. Whoa! Yay! What's going on, Bob Squad? It is the first hardest part of the ring of 2022. It's the first possible hardest part of the ring of 2022. Why? Because WWE had a pay-per-view on New Year's Day. It's the first day of the year. Yeah. Oh, the wrestling world's in chaos. Everyone hates each other. Roman Reigns tweeted earlier in the day that he had COVID-19, so he was unable to be there in Atlanta, Georgia, and wrestle Brock Lesnar. So they did this instead. So this is all very, very interesting. This show just happened, and I'm a little out of sorts because I fell asleep twice and woke up. So what happened? What happened in the program, Bob Squad? Well, I'll tell you. We have a pre-show with Kayla Braxton, and she's got JBL and Booker T and that bald fanboy guy, I forget his name, and the Irish guy is allowed to sit down now. They finally gave him a chair. He doesn't get a word in because JBL is there, and JBL is a blowhard and a bully. So, so good luck. Even when I always love these pre-shows because even in my time zone, these things often start at 5 p.m. my time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So traditionally a pay-per-view starts at 8, or at least in my world as it was. But because WWE was so New York centered for the longest time, 8 o'clock Eastern is kind of their standard. Be that as it may. And also you have to go by Monday Night Raw being live, and it starts live at 8 p.m. Standard. Anyway, so it's live from there. So if I had TV in California, which I don't, thankfully, I would theoretically, if I wanted to, turn the TV on at 5 p.m. on a Monday. So it's always going to be hard because people in the West Coast, not as hard as it is in Europe. The damn thing starts at 2 or 3 in the morning, or whatever the hell it is. But for Californians, if they wanted to watch Monday Night Raw from the beginning, they would have to not have jobs, and that's still probably half of us. At the way things are going, the garbage is piling up. The garbage is piling up outside. There's a sanitation strike. No one's picked up the trash in 3 weeks. There's trash bags to the top of the dumpster and surrounding it. It's just an island of garbage. Last week I tweeted out on Instagram a picture of my Christmas dumpster and add 1 week's worth of garbage of 36 apartments to that, and that's what it looks like. There's garbage everywhere. And speaking of garbage everywhere, we should talk about WWE Day 1-ish. New Day 1-ish. What is this show called? There was a pre-show match, which happens before the show, so it's not on the show. Sheamus is an Irish guy, and he's with Ridge Holland. I forget, maybe Ridge Holland is British, I don't know. There's no way of finding out. And they're in a tag team contest against Cesaro and Ricochet. Cesaro's been a good guy for how long? Where have I been? Well, I don't watch the SmackDown. I was thinking during this thing, of all the people that AEW fans say, this guy should go to AEW, this one should go to AEW, this one. Cesaro might be a really good choice, but of course he would have to want to go and not be contracted to WWE. What's his contract status? For how long? I have no freaking idea. I don't get involved in all that. Anyway, very early on, Ridge Holland has Ricochet do some kind of flippity-doo-dah move on his nose and breaks it. Ridge Holland is taken away from the match. And Sheamus, the heel, wrestles a differently abled adults match versus Cesaro and Ricochet by himself. And Sheamus wins the thing clean. So the heel just beats both of them because the guy was probably the planned finish anyway, was or at least the planned outcome was for Sheamus and his friend to win. So no one called an audible and said, "Hey, Cesaro and Ricochet, do everything you can." At least Ricochet, because Sheamus had a lot of heat on Ricochet. Nobody called an audible and said, "Hey, you know what? You good guys take turns hitting your finishes on Sheamus and somebody pin him." Nope. Nobody did that. And just have a good fun, hey, let's beat the fuck out of the heel type of moment, and then we'll just figure out what we got to figure out next week on TV. Nah. Just make everyone look dumb. So I like how Sheamus wrestles. I like how Cesaro wrestles. I like Ricochet too. So I really didn't have a problem getting Ridge Holland out of the match. It was just goofy. He wasn't on camera at all, so I don't know if he was bleeding or whatever, or was something they didn't want to show. Is he crying like a baby and they didn't want to show it, or what was the situation? I'm not that curious, honestly. Wrestling needs to die. Okay, let's save that rant for some other time. Let's not. Okay, so we do the pre-show match, and of course, what I was getting to with the time zone 5 p.m. thing was that at 4:58, 4:59, on all of these things, you could see Kayla Braxton trying to wrap it up during the last 20, 30 seconds of the pre-show, and JBL can't stop interrupting, can't stop running his mouth, being an good old boy blowhard, saying the same tired lines of, yeah, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth, and all the stupid, tired, hackneyed lines that he just barfs out to hear himself speak. And it actually screws up the pay-per-view, where now it's a premium event, I'm told, which is hilarious. Because now the thing starts later, and they have to show 48 packages and some signatures at the beginning of the show. They always show Vincent Kennedy McMahon Sr. Or is it just Vince McMahon? Was it James McMahon was a senior? Whoever Vince's dad was. Vince McMahon Sr. I forget if there were two Vincent Kennedys or two Vincent Jameses or one or the other, because there was the father of Vince. Who the hell cares? Anyway, they show Vince Sr. at the beginning of that thing, but this show is, this has nothing to do with, he would not recognize this. I bet you. Okay. The opening match. Second best match of the show, so it should have gone first. Just like a good comedy set, you do your second funniest joke first and your funniest joke last, in theory. So I forgot how fun the Usos Day One-ish song is. I haven't heard that in forever. It's confusing. The pay-per-view is Day One. The Usos have a Day One catchphrase thing, and they're wrestling a team called New Day. And in the main event is a champion with a guy part of the New Day group. So it's WWE New Day One-ish. What is this? In 1.5 seconds, Xavier Woods helps this match tremendously. He just yells out, Atlanta. That's where they are. They're in Atlanta. He's from Atlanta. Or he lives there. I don't know where he's from. And right away, and people like the New Day, but right away the audience was like, oh, cool. He's one of ours. And I think that helped so much more, and they cared so much more, especially when Xavier got in the ring. They cared so much more about the match. WWE, let the wrestlers, let the talent acknowledge the city they're in. It makes every show better. It's if there was a huge advantage, if I had to list advantages AEW has over WWE, that's a big one. And there's nothing stopping WWE from doing it other than Vince doesn't think the live audience is important. They're just background for his TV show. It's so important, and it helped this match. You can tell whenever Xavier Woods tagged in, or whenever New Day took control back. I mean, those guys are all great workers, so yeah, they're going to have the people where they want them anyway, but it helped. It just helped. Anyway, great back and forth match. Everyone's kicking out of everyone's finish, you could argue, but whatever. We needed a fun, exciting, physical back and forth match anyway, and not every match should be. We'll get to that next match, actually. But anyway, the Usos win, which I think was kind of a depressing, because Roman's not here. Because these things trickle down the card Because, okay, so Roman has to have this extreme level of protection that has to trickle down to cards. So the guys associated with Roman can't be losing because they got pinned in a non-title thing. So that should have been a sign right away they're keeping the titles. I don't know what the tag team of the King Woods gimmick and Kofi would have done with the tag titles anyway, or who the hell their opponents are, so I'm not really mad about the choice. But it was just kind of maybe it's just sometimes just make us happy anyway, because it's like a show, it's supposed to be fun. You can make us happy sometimes. I realize you have to have build heat and piss us off, but okay, whatever. New Day wins with 3D, the Dudleys finish out of nowhere. I don't know if they've been using it on TV, but it felt odd to me anyway. Moving on. Big E, the champion. I don't know if he was talking to a blonde lady or an Irish guy, I forgot. Maybe he's talking to an Irish blonde lady, there's no way of knowing. But he said words, and then we see the rappers Migos. A blonde lady talks to the rap group or rapper of Migos. I don't know if one of those three guys is Migos or all three are Migos. I have no idea, but I don't want to be amigos with any of these guys because they had nothing to say, and each took turns babbling into the blonde lady's microphone that they were awesome. I'm like, fuck you. And the second match is Madcap Moss, accompanied by Happy Baron Corbin, versus Drew McIntyre. They did their match and Drew wins with the Claymore 1, 2, 3. Okay. More importantly, this is what I was just saying. They don't all have to be great 50-50 back and forth matches. This match, I don't know how long it went. I don't time the things. I'm sorry enough that I'm watching it, but it definitely went over 10 minutes. I'm looking at Drew McIntyre's almost his last 2 years. And I'm looking at Madcap Moss. And him and Baron came out and they talked for a long time. And I realized they cut intentionally bad jokes. I get that they weren't supposed to be funny jokes, but they were... I can't believe this has been on SmackDown for weeks or months or however long. It was really awful. But Drew takes way too long for a guy of his stature to beat Madcap Moss. It's way too back and forth. I get it. Corbin's there to distract him a little bit here and there. But, anyway, it made Drew look stupid. It didn't even build up Madcap by saying, hey, look, he hung with Drew. Not my mind. My mind, it looks like Drew was like, what's taking you so long, buddy? You should have kicked this guy in 2 minutes. Kicked him in the face. Anyway, Pence. Kevin Owens is backstage, and he talks to somebody. I forget why. I mean, all of these promos with Big E, KO, and the other guys later on, they're all being asked about how do they feel about Brock Lesnar being included. No. You're not missing anything. The third match, we're missing even less. The Street Profits, for some reason, get that tag title match against RK Bro, and RK Bro has to stop. And the ring announcer says they're coming out with the greatest rap stars in the world, the Migos. Do you know how ridiculous it is to see Randy Orton, who's been on TV and traveled all over the world for 20 years now, who undoubtedly has millions of dollars, especially because he does all of the Saudi Arabia shows. And he's got his own bus. Like, Orton's got to be loaded, right? I'm sure Riddle's doing well, but Orton's been in that top spot. And think about all of the pay-per-view main event payoffs Randy Orton's gotten, especially the WrestleManias. But I'm sure all of them, like, and the SummerSlams, like it's got to be huge. So Randy Orton has to come out and look at Migos and act like Migos are big stars. Orton is more famous than the Profits, Riddle, and the Migos combined. I know he always had Cena kind of over his shadow just a little, or had him in his shadow just a little bit, but I don't know. Just think about the years of the main events and the pay-per-views and the merch sold and this, that, and everything. It's very stupid. So it was a babyface tag team match, and these things are hard. Everybody did their best physically. It was a nice finish. Riddle put Montez up in the air, almost like he's gonna backdrop him, or flap or pancake him, I guess. But that falls into an RKO. 1, 2, 3. RK Bro keep it very good, and they celebrate with the Migos in the ring for a long time because Migos, they're waiting, and basically Randy Orton dropped his belt on the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring, and just told them all to get out. And he got out first, but he told everyone, like, get out, we're all leaving. and he didn't turn around either to make sure they were following him, and so whatever, I'm done. I did everything you paid me to do, and I did it very well, so now we're done. I can't babysit these idiots. But, because the Migos guy, all these pay-per-views have a theme song. They take a new pop culture song, and they play it for a few weeks up until the event, and then they play it all during the event, and then we never hear about this band again, except for a select few who keep coming back, like Triple H's NXT had that Poppy girl, the heavy metal singer girl, and for many WrestleManias it was Flo Rida, the hip-hop star Flo Rida from Florida. Get it? There's a space now, and okay. Let's move on. Now, the tag team match with the Profits and the Bros. Again, I don't have anything different to say. They needed heels. I like the Profits just fine, but I think RK Bro needed heels, and I didn't understand why, if they weren't, since they were feuding with Otis and Gable kind of as an aside, and Otis was getting the better of Riddle and Orton, why the bigger threat to their titles wouldn't be Otis and Gable. I didn't understand that. I still don't get it, but I don't know. Okay, Drew McIntyre's backstage. He's talking to a blonde lady. They have a lot of those just laying around. And then he gets jumped. The feud isn't over. And you have to do a backstage interview and get attacked, of course. And they murder him, Madcap Moss and Corbin. They put like a chair over his head, and they drop some kind of metal thing that looked really heavy onto the chair. But then, okay, Corbin, in a fake scenario, in a Hollywood stage scenario, when you have an object that's supposed to be super heavy, don't pick it up over your head and launch it 20 yards right after the fact. It's kind of like how, and I'm not a gun guy at all, I'm not really into guns and stuff, but I do notice every time in a Hollywood movie, like, whether it's regular sized dudes or 98-pound women, they always hold up a pistol with their arm out at 90 degrees, which is very heavy on your delts, and they do it all day long, effortlessly, like it doesn't weigh anything, because they're using props. Unless there's those rare occasions in America we film things and don't use prop guns, and someone gets killed, and then we joke about it for 2 weeks and then it's done. But most of the time those are props, which of course don't weigh nearly as much as actual guns weigh. And almost no one ever catches this. This was a classic case of this. He drops this heavy thing on Drew, and then he tosses it 20 yards. Well, dude, anyway, that just means the feud's going to go on, and we should go on as well. Kayla Braxton talks to Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar says Paul Heyman is his advocate, and then he does Paul Heyman's introduction for him, which is kind of odd. It was really weird to see Brock talk in sports entertainment bullshit, but it was very brief, so it wasn't that bad. I noticed this was funny, though, because Brock had to take the microphone away from Kayla. And as much as I hate it when it's an overused AEW trope, like Brian Pillman Jr. just did it to Tony Schiavone again, and Punk was trying to eradicate that trope as well. CM Punk was, but and I just laughed. I'm like, oh, they don't learn, because now the announcer's standing look like an idiot. But when you're Brock Lesnar and you're that much of a special attraction, and you also never do those, you could take it from Kayla. Now, because she's like a 5 foot tall woman, he doesn't need to jerk it from her hands and bully her all that much, especially because he's trying to be the babyface here. But he just took it, and I didn't think he did that. I'm not saying he did that. I'm just saying, be careful. But he takes the thing from her, and he does the Paul Heyman thing, and then he walks away, and they had to show Kayla standing there, but he didn't give her the microphone back. he just walked off with it. Now, obviously, when they yell cut, he's going to be like, what? Oh, shit, yeah, here you go. Like, who cares? But in kayfabe storyline, what was he doing with that microphone from there on. Like, I don't know. It was kind of silly to me. It just looked funny. Okay, now I fell asleep. So the Miz and the Edge finally have their match. As a recap, I called it with the color. They had to play with the color when they re-showed the brown goop onto Miz and Maurice. They really just made it black and white. I thought they were going to add a reddish tint, but they just showed it in black and white, and it still looks like chocolate syrup from Psycho with the lady they killed earlier, whatever the hell the story was, I forget. So they did mess with the color. Score one for Bob. Uh, the Brood Edge does the Brood entrance for no reason, then does his own entrance, and okay. It was cool to see the fire and everyone popped, but we didn't see the actual Brood together, Gangrel and Christian, so it was kind of like, Edge just did it. Because it got a reaction, people like the music. Okay, so Edge and Miz are having a perfectly good match. They do a couple of, they trade off the Universal spot. Headlock, tackle, drop down, leapfrog, hip toss. Whoever takes the headlock is always taking a hip toss. So Edge takes the headlock first and takes the first hip toss because he's the baby face, so he can sell his back. Am I too rusty? Am I this? Am I this? And then he can do the spot again with Miz. He can take the head. And you could even have, I forget, I don't know if they did this or not, but you could even have Miz take the head, wrestle, Edge take the head. No, it should end with Miz taking the head anyway. So Miz would take the head back. And then tackle dropped on leapfrog hip toss, and then Miz takes the hip toss and then bumps into other things. And Miz took a shitty hip toss. Jesus Christ, it didn't make a sound. The bump didn't make a sound. But whatever. So he did that, and that was nice to see because you never see that anymore. And I love seeing it twice a year, and then I'm like, oh, that was awesome. With that said, then I fell asleep. I just flat out, and I woke up to the finish. My body, I've watched enough of this shit where there's just some kind of weird chemical reaction. My body has to wake up in time for the finish and then go back to sleep. So I'm assuming that Maurice was just interfering and distracting Edge a whole lot. Because why else would Beth Phoenix come out unless she was doing that? So Beth Phoenix comes out, stands there. Beth looks great, but then they hit her music, and then she starts sprinting. So she stands on a ramp, just stands there, gets the reaction. They hit it, so she couldn't help her husband until the music plays. There is a parody booking Twitter thing, WWE Creative, I think it's called. I always follow them because they make me laugh, and they called it out. But I mean, I noticed it too because I'm one of those anti-music for run-ins type of guys. But I'm glad they called it out. But in case you were seeing me like that tweet and going, well, but no, it occurred to me as well. Anyway, Beth runs in, and she doesn't. And thankfully, she doesn't do anything physical. She just chases off Maurice. So it was a run around the ring, goodbye. And Edge hits spear 1, 2, 3 on Miz. So it looks like they're setting up a mixed tag, which I assume would happen at the Rumble, but it could be a Raw main event. I don't know. It all depends, because I don't see the point. Because I don't think they're going to put Maurice in the Rumble. Because Maurice and Beth are two names you could theoretically put in there. But now at this point, the issue has to be resolved, and has to be resolved on a big stage. Has to be resolved soon. So you're not going to do Maurice and Beth by having Beth get Maurice out of the Rumble. Like Maurice doesn't want to compete in a Rumble. She's not a wrestler trying to get a title shot or championship opportunity. LOL. So that would be like, yay! What did you actually take away from Maurice? Why would she want to be in that match anyway? So yeah, they would have to do the mixed tags, which I guess my logical guess is do that at the Rumble. There's no one to be in that Rumble. Let's move on. Speaking of more women, and one of which will definitely be in the Rumble and not defending a championship, Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan. We end this finally, and they ring the bell, and I fell asleep again. I just nodded off, and I woke up again. My body just knows. Like 3 minutes before the finish, I woke up, and Becky beat her clean, but I think there was a little bit of a misplacement. Becky was trying to put her foot on the rope and just wasn't getting it, but Becky just hit her finish anyway. So basically, Liv went for her bounce off the second rope, kind of backwards driver moon maneuver thing. Becky caught her in her rock bottom thing and was looking for that rope but didn't quite get it and beat Liv 1-2-3. I saw Liv be a little competitive by smashing Becky's arm in the steps a little bit for a measure of payback, but oh well. And 8 days later, after Toni Storm loses to Charlotte, sorry, I'm going to do back a history lesson, but Toni Storm, a very talented New Zealand wrestler who just left WWE. For a month or so, she'd been feuding with Charlotte Flair over on SmackDown, and Charlotte Flair puts Toni's face in the pie twice. It was like a Thanksgiving theme thing. And Toni gets one pinfall off her in a tag match, of course, to plant the seed that maybe Toni will win. They have a big Christmas Eve night, a Friday night match. Toni loses, of course. Clean? Yeah, I think so. And it wasn't even that. It was that the entire, like a 15-minute match, maybe longer. Toni gets her ass kicked by Charlotte the whole match and then loses clean and barely has a comeback. Doesn't hit anything big on Charlotte. And Toni has to be nervous and hesitant the entire match and then cry and at the end of the match when she loses. So they just completely neuter her and she quits like 2 or 3 days later. So she's out of WWE anyway. So Charlotte can't even let people get the better of her on the build to the match where she's beating them anyway. Becky was much more giving in that sense. She let Liv physically outmaneuver her or toss her here and there this whole time. And they've had 2 matches. So that's like 6 weeks worth of building up and Becky allowing Liv to get that on her to at least build up some hope or a chance. And it's much better. But I don't think Liv was I don't think it was her times yet. I don't know. People were booing Becky, though. But nothing got any really strong, crazy reactions until this next match, the main event. I can't believe I'm saying a 5-way is the best match on the show, but it was. Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens versus Bobby Lashley versus Big E versus Brock Lesnar. Big E, I rattled his name right through like he was just another guy, but he is a defending champion. But his whole title reign, he's been treated like just another guy, and tonight he was treated like just another guy. So there you go. So they have this match. It's a Brock Lesnar match, so it wasn't long. I don't think it was 10 minutes. And I think that makes sense. Because with only one person having to pin one person or make them submit, and there's 5 of them, especially with an even number, it's pretty much a scramble for somebody to beat somebody and get the hell out of there. You could see what match they're clearly setting up for it. So Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens are already out because they've formed an alliance. So they're the bodies, they're the goons of this match. They're the Foot Clan, the Stormtroopers, the Cobra Troopers of this match. And they team up. They team up on Brock. They team up on Lesnar, and they team up on Big E. And Lashley gives. I usually hate the spear through the barricade spot because it's so overdone. It's like every Roman Reigns match they got a spear. But Lashley speared Brock through the barricade so damn hard. I was just like, oh, that looks brutal. So basically, it was a lot of Brock started off suplexing the shit out of Seth and Kevin, and Big E knocks Brock out of the ring early on, I remember. As though they're doing everything they can, double team to keep Brock away, and then have their match, and then go back to Brock, double team to keep him away. And every now and then he wakes up here and there, and Lesnar would come back, beat up some guys, and beat up Big E, and again, just Big E was just all banged up and out of it. I guess at least 3 of the 5 just had COVID, LOL. So, at one point, now this is where we're setting up a match. Clearly, this was well agented. Lesnar is in the Hurt Lock. Lashley has finishing his full Nelson Hurt Lock thing on Brock Lesnar. And before we find out if Lesnar could have gotten out or not, Lesnar was struggling with it, of course, he was selling it. But before we find out if Lesnar is going to lose to it, I think Big E broke it up, and Lashley gets taken out somehow of the match. I forget exactly how, but anyway, there's like an F5 on Seth, an F5 on Owens, and an F5 on Big E. And 1, 2, 3, F5, new champion. There was no way. Without Lesnar in this match, when it was a 3-way, a 4-way, whatever, Big E was not walking out of here with this thing. Everybody knew it. So we start day 1 of WWE's 2002 with a new heavyweight champion. So Brock is the champion on Raw, which means we have no champion now. So get ready for the other 4 guys in this match to have as many singles matches as possible, at least for the next month. Because the Rumble's got to be, I think, on the 30th makes the most sense. I didn't even look up the date. I'm sure they advertised the Rumble, but I didn't look. So that's 4 or 5 weeks away, whatever the hell it is. How would it be? So that's 4 weeks away. So we have a month of those 4 guys talking about Brock Lesnar, who ain't going to be there. And Roman's the champion of SmackDown. So it clearly looks like on Mania and Mania, we're getting some kind of Roman and Brock match. We're going to save it for there anyway. But Lashley was set up where the other 3 guys are laying out. Lashley was standing on that ramp, unbeaten, and with hands on his hips, still looking at Lesnar like, should have been me, and you didn't beat me. This is one of the few times that a title changes hands in a 3 or 4, or I guess 5-way, and the champion actually gets pinned. So it doesn't, and that's another thing. There's clearly no investment by the company in a Big E Lesnar championship match because they just had Lesnar. That's very deliberate. Have Lesnar pin Big E, so there's no question as to who the champion is. So we don't have to have that, and I kind of like that. I think it's refreshing. So we don't have to have that promo that everyone has to cut. Yeah, well, you didn't beat me. You won the match. Which puts holes in their own stupid rules for these matches anyway. And you don't have to hear the person who won it go, yeah, well, I won the match and you defended in the match, and those are the rules and that makes me the champion. And have them have that argument, and then do that rematch. So I don't know. So I mean, it looks like Lashley and Lesnar is going to happen. Because they clearly set the match up. They set it up really hard. It's hard to tell. The way they were setting it up on TV, they were making it look like if Lashley wasn't going to win it, he was going to be screwed and chase it in a way where you want to see Lashley win it. So either way, whether Lashley won it or not, these weeks building up to it was definitely telling us that Lashley is going to be back in this picture very soon. So that was day 1. It's the first one. Overall, what did I think of the show? Oh, it made me sick. God. It was a very entertaining main event. It was better the shorter it was. The people were really loud for it, and it was really good. Unfortunately, I can't comment on the first 80% or the middle chunk of Edge and Miz up until the finish, and any of Becky and Lynch up until their finish. I don't know. That's how enthralled I was with the program. As a matter of fact, during many entrances, and Peacock too. That's the thing with Peacock, is it just goes to commercials. Like you'll be in the middle of a pay-per-view, and not in the middle. It never happens during a match. It's very deliberate, thankfully. A match will end, and then it'll have commercials for bullshit that's on NBC that you're never gonna watch. And like this MacGruber show, they're shoving down our asses. So you'll see like a 90-second or 2-minute commercial for something like that, for 2 of those type of things. And I would just go back to Netflix, and I'm going through Cobra Kai season 4. I have 1 episode left, and I'm just like, God damn, this is the greatest fucking show ever. I don't laugh at anything. I'm a stand-up comedian. I watch comedy of some form all the time. Nothing makes me laugh. Cobra Kai season 4 is so goddamn funny. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I was just so addicted. I'm like, even though this wrestling thing is live and I kind of have to watch it now so I can do this thing, I'm like, I just want to watch Cobra Kai right now. And I'm recording this right afterwards so I can get back to Cobra Kai. And I have started production on the Son Bob Transformers show episode. I have started. This one is really tricky because I'm using completely different video editing software. And video editing software is hard to get to learn when it's new. It's really difficult because every little thing you do that shouldn't be a big deal, like putting a title over video and pictures, it's simple. For some reason, every time you have a new editing software, everyone has a new crazy way of doing it. The old software I used on my old computer that doesn't open up all the way, for some reason, the preview thing will never load when I try to get that program on my current computer. And then I got another program which is good for editing the hardest parts of the rings and the fun boxings really fast, but it's not quite advanced enough to do the Sun Bob type of stuff, unfortunately. It's not precise enough. It's really just good for slapping stuff together and for like YouTube. Like clearly I have an audio file and I slap a picture over it for 30-something minutes. It's edited in less than a minute. It's preposterous. And fun boxing is not, oh my god, it's like a couple of videos. I smash them together. I take out little chunks at the beginning and the end where I'm setting up or just catching my breath or something. It's not hard. So that's good for that, but I needed a more complex one. So I'm having a bit of growing pains with this thing. And I've never done this with the Transformers before, and it's hard. And I have to build their world, Cybertron, and that's also very hard. So a lot of roadblocks, but I've been working on it. Late February would be nice to have that thing out. I don't know. I don't know, but whatever. The outline's looking good, and half the script is done too. Okay, with that said, I thank you for joining me, Bob Squad, in the hardest part of the ring. Hopefully another fun boxing. You should get another fun boxing this weekend too, so I may be bombarding you with Bobness, but what else can I do? I hope you had a happy New Year, and all that good stuff. New Year's is the holiday where, that's the one where I'm a bit of a bah humbug about it. I'm fine with pretty much all the other holidays. I don't like New Year's Eve and New Year's, quite frankly. I just don't like them. I don't know what it is. There's just something about this closure and this a sharing of accomplishments, and I've never been able to really join in. I always kind of feel like, another goddamn year. Another year where I tried this and maybe it didn't work out or half worked out. Another year I tried that. That didn't work. Another year this was going to get better. It actually got worse, and yeah, I don't know. I don't think anybody's actually celebrating 2021 that greatly, but I'm actually a little more optimistic about 2022. I think it's going to be a great last year for the Earth. Let's make it a good one. I thank you for joining me on the hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. Ba-da-ba-da.